Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jonathan Newsma, council member representing the 4th Ward. I will be your pilot for tonight's flight. We don't expect any stormy weather tonight, so barring any turbulence, I hope this flight arrives on time at 6 p.m. A quorum being present in person, I will call the meeting to order at, looks like 5:04. And ask for a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
I move approval of the minutes.
Second.
Let's do a roll call vote.
We can do just a voice vote.
Well, let's make sure there's nobody online.
Councilmember Burns just joined online.
Councilmember Burns is online here. So let's start with a roll call, and then we'll vote on this item.
Councilmember Newsma.
Here.
Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly. Here. Councilmember Braithwaite is en route.
Great. All right, so it's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of June 13th, 2022. Any discussion? Seeing none. Luke, will you call the roll, please? Moved by Councilmember Reed, seconded by Councilmember Kelly.
Councilmember Newsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
All right, that brings us to public comment. At the moment, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people signed up for public comment. We will take people in the order that they have signed up, starting with people who have signed up for in-person. And that would be Mr. Sutton first.
Good afternoon to members of the Administration and Public Works Committee. Carl Sutton of the 5th Ward. I'm requesting tonight that you do not pass Resolution 47-R2Z to the City Council without this resolution being discussed in a call meeting of the 5th Ward. $1,650,000 taxpayers' money in Evanston to an individual who sued the city for requesting demolition fees. Really? The proposed townhomes at Jackson, Simpson, Green Bay Road to be sold for $500,000 each from affordable housing funds. Affordable to who? These proposals are the height of inequity to the 5th Ward residents and demonstrate our insensitivity to our concerns and needs and further your actions to marginalize our community. Why, when is there a proposal for development in the 5th Ward, everyone on the council gets to vote and committees, and we don't get to vote on proposals in other wards until they are presented to the City Council? So why are you voting today on something that will adversely affect us? I've always opposed the 5th Ward TIF and continue to do so. What is being proposed for introduction is contradictory to the requests of 5th Ward residents. The council passed the West Side Plan requested from residents who signed petition and worked diligently in the gym at Family Focus. We did not endorse or agree with the zoning plan you frequently refer to as the West Side Plan. Our plan was passed by the City Council and buried in a bureaucracy so deep that it's difficult to locate it even with a FOIL request. I am aware of the tone deafness of members of the Supreme Court when addressing citizen concerns. Does Evanston's committee and council reflect this same attitude? We're on paper as being a progressive community that recognizes all citizens and practices equity. This proposal is what concerns me about when you adopted the 5th Ward TIF. A prime example of decisions being made by members outside. So I'm asking you to refer to 65 Illinois C5 5-11 54Q, referred to as porting or reverse Robin Hood, stealing from the poor to give developers to the rich. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Next up is Clark McCarthy. Mr. McCarthy.
Yeah, I would just like to
address the ordinance, the overnight parking ordinance once again. And the side conversations I've had with Councilman Reed, Councilman Newsma. I just want to thank you guys. Kind of got a good thing going here after 5 shots at it. So I really can't thank you guys enough for looking out for the hardest working families in this city. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thanks for being involved in the process. We appreciate it. Next up, Tina Payton has signed up for in-person comments. I don't see Tina. Oh, there she is. Don't rush. Is Roberta Hudson here? Okay, whoever gets to the podium first. Ms. Payton, you have the floor.
Okay. Good evening. Tomorrow is Election Day, and I hope that everyone goes out to the polls and votes, if you have not already done so. What happens when you don't vote? People are elected who appoint others into power who make decisions such as overturning Roe versus Wade. You get people in power who don't listen to what you say, don't care what you say, or cut you off at meetings while you are trying to state your opinion. You get people in power who make false promises during their campaign and during their tenure, such as help for small to mid-sized landlords such as Tina Payton and Carla Sutton. I guess you all are helping the small landlord, Miss Catherine, who has made Jackson and Emerson look ghetto for years with all of her code violations. I hope Carlos and I can get the same amount of money that you are offering the white woman. You get people in office who pretend there's transparency and equity while having secret meetings that don't include everyone, only some people that will help further their agenda, not further your agenda. This item, where the city is trying to purchase the properties at Emerson and Jackson, should be held for a different day until the alderman meets with the entire community to discuss the options of these properties in this area. Black Lives Matter all the time, not some of the time when it's convenient for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Payton. Roberta Hudson.
Roberta Hudson, 1941 Dewey, and I'm resolving Resolution 47R22. I'm speaking regarding that. Affordable housing has not worked. It will not work, and it cannot work until the people involved have the stakeholders have a choice, a chance in it to own it. We proposed years ago that the type of housing we wanted in our community, like duplexes, where an owner could rent out part of his home and have money to pay the taxes to the city for property tax. Affordable housing has not worked anywhere, because this isn't the type of housing that you are recommending. And we wanted to change that. We had asked for the male or female in the household to be able to have a skill where they could make a living for themselves. And with that type of housing, they would be able to afford to live there. The type of housing you're proposing is not type of housing. It's not in uniformity with the housing already in the neighborhood, and it's not going to work. We are pleading for you all to give us an opportunity to let the community be a part of this. You're making decisions on your own without the community. No one's notified anyone on our block about what's going on. And yet, for years, we pleaded to have the type of housing that we wanted in our neighborhood. And this is wrong.
Thank you. Next up is Francine Allen for online comment. Ms. Allen?
Yes, thank you very much. I know you all know my story. I've been to many of the APW meetings. I was calling in tonight to see if there's been any progress in the resolution of helping people such as myself in the situation I found myself in early 2001, which is having a failed sewer line that cost $45,000 to repair. There's been a lot of back and forth about options and plans, and Councilman Kelly suggested a plan that everyone said sounded reasonable, and I'd like to know if there's been any update on this, or if not today, then when might this issue be on the agenda?
Thank you for your comment. It is not on the agenda for today, and I'm not sure when it's scheduled to come up, but if it's all right, I will have staff look into that and we'll get back to you.
But is it going to, do you know if it is going to be scheduled to come up?
As chair of AP&W committee for the next few months, I will see to it that we do consider this while I'm chair.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Next up, Mike Vasilko. Mr. Vasilko.
I'm here, although you can only see the top of my head. There I am. So item A3, approval of the vending machine services contract renewal. I guess I'm wondering why this contract has not gone back out for a new RFP. It seems like, Mark Vending, which is basically Mark and Daniel Stein. I know everybody knows they're politically connected there in Evanston, so I'm just kind of curious why this doesn't go back and be an open bid situation as opposed to just renewing the contract in perpetuity. Item A4, in part, there should not be, we should not continue to pave alleys, which I know part of this A4 item is for that purpose. Paving the alleys is not an environmentally friendly thing to do, and if climate change is going to be an issue with us, then we should take it seriously. I also agree with holding item A9, the purchase of the property on Jackson. The residents are not informed. I'm asking you to hold A9. I'm asking you to hold A3. I'd also like to draw your attention to the email I sent. We have no representation in the 6th Ward. We have no ward meetings. And we're uninformed when it comes to the upcoming vote at the council about the voting changes being proposed. Lastly, I would like to know about the city manager's search status. That's gone on forever. I think some people are informed about what the status is. Other people aren't. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Mary Rosinski.
Hi, thank you. I also am here to speak about A9, Resolution 47R22. I have a number of questions. I'm hoping you'll put this on hold. I'm wondering, when did this discussion begin, and were the residents in the 5th Ward around there involved in this discussion at all? And the fact that we're porting money from one TIF to the other, I'm wondering what is the plan for the West Side TIF? Is there not something that we're trying to accomplish when that TIF was put into place that the money would be well served for? I'm wondering where the price of 1,675 maximum came in. There should be an appraisal with this property, and residents should be able to see it. This property was on the market for, I think 400 and some days. And it was not always at one. The last price was 1,775, but it, as of January 2021, it was 1,500,000. And since then, interest rates have risen, and so the price is so flexible. And I don't want the residents, if you do decide to move forward with this, to bear the price, the cost of an inflated purchase price without documentation, and I didn't see anything with an appraisal or what that would be going on there. The other questions I had was, have you had any discussions with this developer in the last 2 years before the Fifth Ward TIF was done? And if, let's see, reporting the data, sorry. And also, there's a Fifth Ward Advisory Board, I believe, that was set up or is being set up. Has it been set up, and who's on it, and have they discussed this at all? I'm all for a reasonable, affordable housing that really services the median income of the people existing in that ward right now. But I don't know what we're doing with this, and I think we all deserve to know what's going on and how our tax dollars are being spent, and that there is a long-term plan with that. And so I guess that's pretty much it. And the other thing that just sort of bothered me about this whole transaction is that we had just talked at one of the other meetings about a tree ordinance, and I know on AP Planning and Development, the moratorium is set to go in effect immediately if that's voted on. And these people on this project took down a boatload of old trees prior to this going on. So it feels like there's something going on behind the scenes that we need to really be transparent and catch up on what was said, why did those trees come down? Because trees are an equity issue. We talk about it. There's that great movie about Baked that goes into it in great detail in Chicago. And so I think there's a lot of unanswered questions that deserve to be answered. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Mr. Brzezinski. Betty Esther is next. Ms. Esther.
Okay, here I am.
There
Thank
she
you.
is. Good evening.
You can hear me okay?
We can hear you, Ms. Esther, yes. Please continue.
Thank you. Yes, I'm speaking to item 89, which is in reference to the corner of Emerson and Jackson, how a project that didn't go through because of whatever reason that the owner could not make it happen. One of the reasons was the residents in that area around objected to the height. And if you look at the Churchyard, Green Bay Canal, and Ridge neighborhood plan, we had asked that that area be zoned R3, so it would be in line with the rest of the Fifth Ward. We didn't ask, we don't want more black box houses like in the Emerson Square. We want to see it as a neighborhood, an open neighborhood, not as houses that, hey, people go in, shut the door, and you do not know who they are. And the disrespectfulness of our council member of not notifying us. He did tell us that he talked to the neighbors east of Jackson, who happen to be mostly white, but the people that lives on Jackson and west of Jackson, he did not have a conversation with us. What you do to that block also affects us. And why is the city buying property when it said it never wanted to be a property owner or to get in housing? So why are you buying this? And do you have a developer in mind that you're giving that to? If you are buying that property, we insist that you give it to the Community Partners for Affordable Housing. So that benefit, that property would be affordable in the community forever. And so if you're going to go through with this and disregard our wishes of not moving forth on this tonight and giving us a chance to have a discussion, not a 3-minute speech, but a discussion of back and forth. So if you vote on it, give it to the Community Partners for Affordable Housing so that that property would benefit the residents of Evanston for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Esther. Eric Potters has also signed up. Mr. Potters, are you online? I don't see you in the building. Was unclear whether you were signing up for City Council or for ANPW.
I was signed up for City Council, sir.
Great. Is there anybody else wishing to speak at public comment during ANPW this evening? Going once, going twice. Ms. Payton? Priscilla Giles has not signed up, but Priscilla Giles, if you are online, if you would, she's not online either, so thank you for letting us know, Ms. Payton. All right, we will move on to the consent agenda, which includes items A1 through A7. Does anybody wish to remove any items from consent?
Yeah, I'd like to remove A3 and A7.
Anybody else? A3 and A7 have been removed. Okay, that's going to be it. If somebody would like to make a motion on the consent agenda, which would include A1, 2, 4, 5, and 6.
Second.
Councilmember Braithwaite has moved. Councilmember Reed has seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No opposed. Motion carries unanimously, which brings us to item A3.
I move item A3, approval of vending machine service contract renewal, RFP 1812.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Does anybody wish to comment on item A3? Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. Yes. Could you tell me, are there any other respondents to this RFP, or is this the only vendor?
Is there staff available to take this one? Director Thompson.
Thank you, Audrey Thompson, Parks and Rec Director. Councilmember Kelly, so there are no other respondents because we had the ability to extend for an additional year, so we took that last extension.
Thank you.
welcome.
Would you be able to approximately what % of the revenue does the city get from this vendor?
I'd have to find that out for you, but I can get that back to you in an email.
Okay. And I don't know if you know, like, just on average, generally, what municipalities get from vendor companies?
No, don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll find that out for you
Great.
as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director, and I know you've only been in this position for a short term. Have there been any issues with this vendor? Any issues with service, vending machines running out?
No, not at this point. In fact, he contacted me in order to see if he could put a vending machine at our new teen center. so that we can have snacks that come out of the vending machine at no cost. So
Wow.
they'd be able to, instead of just going and getting all of their snacks out of the vending machine, we'd be able to use it so that we can kind of have an approximate number of snacks that we're providing every day. And that's part of the in-kind that is a part of the contract.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other comment? Director Thompson, I do have one comment that
Sure.
I wanted to add regarding the possibility of limiting the number of plastic bottles. And I hope that's something that we can work with the vendor to do without having to modify the contract. And then maybe next time this contract comes up for renewal, we can take a little bit closer look at that.
Yeah, I do share your concerns about that imprint as far as so many of those plastic bottles coming. So we can look at the vendor and have some discussion with him about that.
Great.
Or any other vendor moving forward. That can be a part of the RFP.
Bigger policy discussion
Absolutely.
coming at some point.
For sure.
Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. I would like to hold this table, I guess, because we're in committee, table this. Just, I have no doubt that it's not an excellent service. I just think as sort of our due diligence in terms of our responsibility and accountability with our tax dollars, that it would be good just to know on average what we get from what vending machines, what municipalities get, and, comparables as to, most likely this is maybe the best we can do for our taxpayers, but I think it would be good just to have some comparables to go forward. So I would ask if we could table this. Does that have to be to the next, to a date, right? To the next?
If it was tabled, that would have to be to a date certain, and it would also require a second.
I guess before anybody takes action, we do have the vendor here. I don't study all of our contracts, so I'm assuming that there is no rebate. I'm not sure what you're referring to in terms of a rebate from the vendor in terms of products sold. If you could clarify
think
that,
a
then I
profit
may
share is what
remove
she's-
my. So that's a question. I mean, the vendor's here, so if we're holding it to wait for an answer to the question, let's see if you could answer the question.
Well, I don't think you could answer in terms of bringing forth other competitors for the
So I
contract.
hear two different things. I just want to clarify.
There are two questions, correct. Like
So-
what the
Councilmember
average-
Braithwaite, let me interject here. Mr. Stowe also points out that the current contract is set to expire July 1st. So
Right, that's the reason for
if
the
we want to take
extension.
action tonight,
Yeah.
so let's allow the vendor to the opportunity to answer these questions if that's possible. Otherwise, the motion has been made and would require a second.
And if there's no second, then I'll hold my questions. We can just take the vote.
Well, I'd like to hear from the vendor. So, or who's the vendor? Oh, yeah, if you want to come and answer Councilmember Kelly's questions.
Hello, I'm Daniel Stein. I'm co-owner of Mark Venn Company. My brother, Mark Stein, also a longtime Evanston resident, is out of the country, so I'm here with my daughter, Madeline Stein, who is the third generation Mark Venn family member owning the business. Maddie Stein is a 2013 graduate of Evanston Township High School. I'm very proud that she's working for our family business. Vending companies, especially with hospitals, municipalities, do pay commission back. Your commission are market rates. Absolutely. There's a 20% commission, not from memory, paid to the city on the sales from the vending machines at the Parks and Rec facilities. There's also a commission that's paid on the machines that are back of house, Civic Center, Municipal Service Center, and whatnot. Went out to bid. We were the only company. It was an exhaustive RFP. It went out to bid. We were the only company that did respond. We responded aggressively. We actually gave the city even a better deal this time around, even though we were the only person bidding on it. So it was a 3-year agreement with 3 one-year options after that. I think everyone has to remember that in the middle of our 3 years was the pandemic, where our sales went to 0. And kind of the happy story about Mark Venn is we survived, but our sales did plummet from $30 million in top line to $6 million in top line in 6 weeks due to the pandemic. So we're very happy that we're building back. But we are kind of in the rebuilding stage, and half of the contract that we had with the city of Evanston was when there was no one using our vending machines. But I'm happy to get any questions anyone's looking for.
So thank you very much. And like I say, I have no doubt that it's an excellent service. I just feel like, as a public body, that we need to show that we are,
Yeah, it went out, it did, it went out to bid, so I'm comfortable.
So I had
answering
understood that,
questions.
so it went out to bid and we only had one
It was a
respondent?
3-year, it went out for 3 years with 3 one-year options. So now we're in the 1-year options.
It went out
stages.
to bid 3 years ago, right? And now we're just allowing for a 1-year extension.
Correct.
That was in the contract.
Okay, so the 1-year extension did not go out to bid, if I'm,
Part of the current contract.
It's part of the
Right.
contract.
It's part of the contract that was approved 3 years ago.
okay. Okay, and so 20% is what the city, that's the portion that the city,
Correct,
on all vending machines across the city?
At Parks
Not-
and Rec.
At Parks and Rec.
yes.
And what are the other locations?
And then there, the back of the house, like the municipal service center and the police station as well. And I do not remember those rates off the top of my head, but it's somewhere between 10 and 20%.
Between 10 and 20, so less at the other places, but at Parks and Rec 20, but somewhere between 10 and 20 at all the other locations?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Okay, there was a
Jonathan,
motion.
One other?
Yes, sir.
We did, about 3 months ago, we replaced all the plastic water bottles with aluminum water bottles system-wide. So we did that at the request of the city. We also, 2 years ago, as part of the Reduce Your Sugar, reduced all of the sugary drinks throughout the entire system, because that was a joint project between City of Evanston Health Department and North Shore University Health. So we really do fancy ourselves as a very proactive supplier, and we're very proud Evanstonians. And you guys, this is our community, these are our friends, these is our neighbors use these facilities, so it's very important to us as well. So we agree. We think reducing plastic wherever possible, we do.
Thank you. There is a motion on the table to hold this. Does that motion
There is
have a
no
second?
motion. There's
So
no motion
now
yet.
that I have more of a response, I'm going to withdraw that,
Okay.
if that's all right.
Great. And then Councilmember Reed?
Yeah, I don't have any questions for you, but thank you.
You're welcome.
I was going to respond to the request for a hold, but it's been withdrawn. But I was going to say that at this point, given that it's been withdrawn at this point, so it's kind of moot. But we're close to the end of the contract. I think next year is the time to look at the contract, and I certainly recognize your face and you as an Evanstonian, people who show up and are involved. I did not know that you're the owner of this company, which is a good thing. It means that you're here for reasons not just related to that. So certainly want to look at this contract next year and to make sure to do our due diligence, as Councilmember Kelly has stated. But I think that's most appropriate when we go out for our next full actual RFP and are in a place to actually negotiate. So I'm happy to approve this for now.
Great. Item A3 has been properly moved and seconded. There be no further discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. That motion carries unanimously, which moves us now to item A7.
Can I move 2 items at the same time, item A7 and A8?
Please.
Yes, I move item A7 and A8 conjointly.
Councilmember Reed has properly moved item A7 and A8.
I'm going to recuse myself from item A7, but I should be all right to vote on item A8.
Oh, well, in that case,
Okay.
would you like us to
So
separate
I'd like to
All
keep
right,
them
then-
separate, please.
Okay, we'll separate it. So I move item A7 alone.
Is there a second?
Kelly Burns.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on item A7?
I'll just very quickly. I just want to note that we have Professor Easterday and crew here, as well as Matthew Orrin, who is the staff for the PB committee. This is, I think, a really important first step. We are going to be one of the largest participatory budgeting experiments in America, with just around $3 million, maybe up to $3.5 million that will be turned over to the community using ARPA funds to allow residents to directly, for the folks who are always here, to allow folks directly to pitch ideas of how to use ARPA funds, work with your community, and get those ideas voted on, not by the council, but by the community itself. So this is a really big first step. We're really proud to be working with our local partners at Northwestern to roll this out. Councilmember Burns, Nusma, and Mayor Biss and I all serve on the PB committee, and information will be coming out regarding the how residents can get more involved and start to really take over this process. And so we're really excited for that, and this is the first step. So that's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Reed. Councilmember Braithwaite, is your light on from before?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other further discussion on item A7? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All in favor? I'm sorry, Councilmember Kelly.
Roll call.
I had one question about the sharing. It's between, so Northwestern as well as the firm, right, that we.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand a little bit better. I read through this, but, so it's Northwestern as well as, what is it called? The service agreement, sole source partnership.
Yeah, so we went through a sole source. We did not have we went through an RFP process. We got no respondents to that RFP. And then we directly, after going through that open process, directly negotiated with the Northwestern team.
All right.
Okay.
Are you, Councilmember Kelly, you satisfied? Great. All in favor of item A7?
You want to do a roll call? Because
Yeah, I'm going to
do we need to do a roll call?
I'm
Oh, because
abstaining.
we do have an extension. Thank you for reminding me. Luke, you please call the roll.
Councilmember Nusma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly? Aye. Councilmember Braithwaite?
Abstain.
Motion carries 4-0 with one abstention, which moves us to item A8.
I move item A8, Resolution 45R22, authorizing the interim city manager to hire participatory budgeting staff.
Is there a second?
Burns, Kelly.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion to follow on item A8?
Just very quickly, I just want to have nothing really to say other than this is hiring 2 staff folks, as it says. This is going to be heavy work, and we want to make sure that we have the proper staffing to get this done correctly. And so, again, so if you're in the community and you have folks who seem like they fit what will be the job description of people who are going to be going out into the community and organizing, particularly if you're an Evanston resident, consider applying or recommending folks to apply. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Reed, and thank you for chairing the Participatory Budgeting Committee. Looking forward to some innovative democracy yet to come on that item. So I will call for the vote on item.
Good question.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Kelly, I missed your light.
So $200,000 will be earmarked for staff. Is there any, to train new staff? I just want to understand why, I mean, hopefully this will be something that we would continue on with in the future. This is allocation from ARPA. Can you explain why our current staff can't be trained?
It's not that our current staff can't be trained. Our current staff are perfectly capable of being trained. It's the capacity. We have to build capacity for the very involved work of actually organizing and educating and training a community on the various rules of ARPA, on how these government processes work, making sure that they're testing the feasibility of the proposals that are moved forward and creating the ballot. There's a very complicated process that could not be borne by our current staff. And particularly in a way, if we truly want to make this a model and show what this can be so we can continue it in the future, I think we got to get it right the first time.
So you're looking to add ideally permanent staff. This would be.
No, right now we're just looking at this program. We only have the ARPA funds, so these are temporary seasonal staff that will be hired in a seasonal capacity. And if we so choose to move forward with it, we can create these positions somewhere down the line.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nay. The motion carries 5-0, moving us on to item A9. Councilmember Burns, would you like to make a motion on item A9?
I move approval of Resolution 47R22, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract for the purchase of real property located at 1917 to 25 Jackson Avenue and 1413 through 25 Emerson Street in the amount of $1.675 million.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on item A9? First, Councilmember Burns, and then Councilmember Reed.
A few things. So I am really excited about this. Of course, we know it is not advisable for any of us to negotiate real estate deals in a public manner. These are sensitive deals that can break down. But what I did was, all throughout the campaign, I was very transparent about Jackson and Emerson. And I said in really every meeting it was brought up that I would love for the city to purchase these properties. That was my exact words. And so we had those discussions throughout the campaign. We had those discussions afterwards. I probably know every active person at this point in time on Jackson Avenue, and so I've discussed this with them, not just in the last few days, but consistently throughout my time in office. I've met and talked with people on Jackson and Wesley about Jackson and Emerson and about the benefit if we were able to get site control so that we could, as Ms. Esther said, develop affordable housing here. And what AMI levels we still need to discuss, what height, what density, all of those things still need to be discussed. What's on the agenda today is simply a land acquisition deal. So we are going to have a robust community conversation, which is typically the case, about what we want to do here. I will point everybody to what we recently did with Lot 1, a city-owned parking lot on South Boulevard. We went out on an RFP process. SEPA, along with REBA, applied. I think HODC applied to that RFP and other affordable housing developers. And we ultimately, a few weeks or months ago, approved a developer to move forward with that project. And that's no different than what we are likely to do here. And so I'm excited about this. To Mary Rosinski's question about the purchase price, so she is absolutely right. I agree with her. There should be an appraisal before any real estate deal is completed, and there was one. It is a FOIA-able document, so if you would like to see it, request it through FOIA, and it will be provided to you. This property appraised at $1.675 million, which is why the offer is $1.675 million. 7 parcels. You good, Bob? 7 parcels appraised at that amount, and so that's why it doesn't says up to. It's we completed the appraisal, we had the negotiation, and discussed this in closed session as is typical in real estate deals, and we are offering the property owner the appraised value. This is not connected to John Cleary's project on in the kind of field in back of the public storage. He has not, as far as I understand, to my knowledge, he is not requesting city funds at all at this time. He is required to put in inclusionary housing units as part of the inclusionary housing ordinance. 10% of those of the units have to be affordable. He's putting in 30, 3 need to be affordable. But this $1.67 million is not going towards that project at all. It is a land acquisition contract. It is going towards acquiring 7 parcels near Jackson and Emerson that appraised for $1.675 million. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Councilmember Reed. Councilmember Reed.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to echo my support for this acquisition. I think I agree with much of what, if not everything, that Councilmember Burns said. this is, site control is extremely important. Having the city having control of a site and being able to allow the residents to have a voice. With the city having control, the residents have a voice in how, and what goes on this property. I think that's really important. I would just ask, the heckling is a bit inappropriate, and so I really just.
I will call for order, please. I will call for order, please. Mr. Councilmember Reed, please continue.
Thank you. I have a personal connection to these properties. I grew up there. I lived right in the house at 1419 Emerson, and so this is personal to me, as I'm sure it is to anyone else in the community who grew up in our historic Fifth Ward, a historic Black community. My family was directly affected by the displacement and by the gentrification. This house was bought by the very people who, by Miss Catherine and her husband back in 2003. And so I understand what's happening in the Black community, where more and more folks are, inheriting homes that maybe they grew up in. And when, grandmother or someone passes away, they take the opportunity to sell the house and downgrade and live somewhere cheaper, because Evanston is unaffordable for too many of our neighbors. And so I really applaud Councilmember Burns for having the courage to go and say, let's spend $1.6 million on gaining site control in the Fifth Ward so we can ensure that affordable housing is built on this site, rather than the $500,000 plus condos and townhouses that folks are concerned about. The only way to ensure that that does not happen is by having site control. And so, I am happy. I'm happy to vote for this, and I think the proof will be in the proverbial pudding when this is done. So, looking forward to whipping up a big batch.
Thank you, Councilmember Reed. Councilmember Braithwaite, you were next.
Thank you, Councilmember Newsma. So I'm also going to be supportive of this. I don't think there's anyone in this room that would disagree that affordable housing is one of the biggest issues that we've dealt with in the past and will continue to deal with. I think the key things to take away from, Councilmember Burns' comments is that we do have site control, which I think controls the cost of land. It was clear that he stated that there will be a public discussion as it relates to the RFP process. Last term, we had a similar situation with that property where neighbors were very concerned about the zoning, which I'm sure you read about and heard about, and there's no way to determine that or affect that unless you own the property. So not only does this give a full opportunity to listen to the concerns of the neighborhoods, and I'll say this, just to pivot, the day the District 65's announcement came through that they were going to build a school in the Fifth Ward, I received a phone call from a realtor, from people outside the community ready to purchase land. And that will accelerate the displacement of people who look like us. So although I can appreciate the criticism and scrutiny, I think that's always a part of the public discussion. I think the real opportunity comes that when the meetings are there, that you're there to share your voices as residents. So thank you, Mr. Burns, for your leadership on this.
Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. When was the appraisal done?
Paul, I don't know if Paul Zamelzak
Is Paul Zamelzak, Paul, are you in the library paging Mr. Zamelzak?
I mean, just generally, it was done within the last
done
few
recently.
months. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah,
Was done in the last 2 months?
We got it a few weeks ago. It came in.
Yeah, so within the
Let me see
last
if I can-
month or two, certainly.
Okay.
It's
Great.
it's
Okay.
fresh.
All right, thank you. I love the idea of the city buying property to, having site control, but the question is for what? Control for what? And I think therein, to me, lies the big question. I'd love to know, going forward as we spend these dollars, that this is, ahead of time, that this is going to go into a community land trust or into an LEC, a limited equity co-op, to know that it's going to be affordable in perpetuity. But we don't know this. And I think that's where there's an issue. We know it's about affordability. We know it's also mixed income. So I think, again, I think it's a fabulous idea for the city to buy land and at good prices. But again, I think it's really imperative that we know that we have a clear idea for what. And I know it's about affordability, but that is a pretty broad description. So again, like I would say, if this is going to go into community land trust or into an LEC, that would be fabulous to know that it's in perpetuity. We have so many right now affordable housing units that are going to sunset, and it's just going to, Evanston's going to become less and less affordable. So I would like to see that first going forward, that we're going to buy this so that we can convert this into a community, go into a community land trust or into an LEC. I think that's really, really important. I'm also concerned about, I don't know if this could be amended to, I'm not proposing an amendment yet, but, that we're taking, this is in the TIF, correct, in the 5/5 TIF? So I understand right now that it's increment poor, so to speak, because it's in the first year. And I wondered if maybe Paul or somebody could talk about the portability from the West End TIF into the 5/5 TIF and how that decision was made. I'm sure there's still investment that could be made in the West End. If someone could just speak a little bit to the porting of the TIF money from one TIF into the other.
Councilmember Reed and Councilmember Burns have requested the floor, so let's hold that question for staff. And meanwhile, Councilmember Reed.
Yeah, I just want to say I always appreciate my colleague from the First Ward who is looking out for these issues and community involvement. I think that moving forward with this purchase now is key to getting this prop. If we decide to go the route of a community land trust or an LEC, we have to have control of the site first. We live in a market that we are not the only people who may want to buy this, and so the first thing to ensure anything happens is to gain control. And so with that, I love the ideas. May be very supportive. The community may come out on that, and I don't know where Councilmember Burns lands, but we first have to get control of the site.
Thank you, Councilmember Reed. Councilmember Burns.
And maybe Sarah can speak to this, but I think most city-funded projects have affordability restrictions, which is essentially what you're describing, which I absolutely support. Emerson Square, for example, had a 30-year affordability restriction. Others have varying years of affordability restrictions. So, that's something that is part of the course on these type of affordable housing projects, and I would obviously support that. That's what this is for, to preserve affordability at these locations in perpetuity. So yes, that's not even a difficult thing to support. That is, in fact, SEPA, who has the home ownership land trust program, I reached out to Rob Anthony, the executive director, as you received in your email, during our first closed session meeting, and have him write a letter to all of us explaining what he thought was possible at the site. So they are fully aware of what we're trying to do. They're supportive, and they're the only land trust currently that we have in Evanston through their home ownership land trust program, which Sarah can talk more about.
Ms. Flex, are you able to weigh in on the question of portability between TIFs?
There is some portability. I don't know how much there is, but if the question is, could the 5/5 reimburse a different source? Is that what you're asking for?
So my question, these are contiguous TIFs? The West End, I assume,
Parts
portability,
of
it has to be.
Part of it is contiguous.
Yeah. Coterminous is what I was thinking of. Yes, they're contiguous.
Okay.
Portability is possible. This is going from the
right.
West
That's what
End
I'm
to
asking.
TIF.
So I thought they weren't
possible.
contiguous. Okay, so the West End is contiguous with the 5/5 TIF.
Part of it, yes.
And so, so I guess I am wondering about first either reimbursing, or because I'm certain that there's still that the West End could benefit from this TIF money. So I'm just curious as to how that decision was made, and if.
So I can speak to that just so we can move forward. So, reimbursal is possible both through the 5/5 TIF at some point, through ARPA, potentially. Councilmember Braithwaite and I have a meeting at the end of this week to discuss the West Evanston TIF for Paul Zalmazak and others. So, absolutely.
Great. And then in terms of the Affordable Housing Fund also, I feel like, and again, I understand that this is the first year of the TIF, so the funds aren't available. But that also, as we know, the TIF was controversial, and the TIF will be collecting funds that would otherwise go to, public services. So would we intend to also reimburse our affordable housing fund?
That's been discussed, and that's one of the things we need to discuss in greater detail, because there are benefits that can be used in areas of the community that we don't have TIFs, but at the moment, this is an expeditious way to get the property acquired and then have the flexibility to do that reimbursement at a later point. And staff has been recommending for a number of years that, especially if any ownership properties are done with city funding, that it be in a land trust or a cooperative agreement. So we're very much supportive of that, and I believe all the council members are as well.
Terrific. That's wonderful. So I guess I would really like to see that in the resolution, that this property will be used for either a community land trust or an LAC to provide affordable housing in perpetuity. I would also like to see it in the resolution that the funds, upon accruing the amount of TIF money, that the affordable housing fund would be reimbursed, as well as the West End TIF. That would be important to see that in there. I'm really happy to hear, Bobby, that you agree with, moving forward with affordable units in perpetuity through SEPA or another entity that would guarantee affordability forever. But I'd like to see that in the resolution, because otherwise we're talking about spending a lot of money with you saying, I like that idea, we're going to do that, but I think people want to see that.
It's not the idea, Claire. That's the point of what we're doing here, right? Like, that's the whole point of this, is to preserve affordability in the community. So again, I am glad that you support what I support, and I think what we all support. And what we need to determine is how we can reimburse both the West Evanston TIF and the Affordable Housing Fund. Again, this resolution is a land acquisition one. So we can pass this and still have discussions about a 7-year plan for the West Evanston TIF, as well as a plan to reimburse the Affordable Housing Fund, and a plan to develop affordable housing in perpetuity at this site. But this resolution, again, the contents of it are to authorize the city manager to execute a land acquisition deal, and we should move it forward. So we can get that done.
I want to be mindful of the time here. In 2 seconds, we will be overtime. We are now overtime. Councilmember Reed has requested to be recognized, and then I would like to proceed with the vote.
Yeah, I'll just wrap up here. The only reason I want to make a comment is just to try to level set our morals really quick here, and that is that when it comes to there was an idea. I heard many folks in the community concerned that once we create a TIF, and there's a theory that TIFs actually force communities to lift themselves up by their bootstraps. That is something I know you were on many calls with Tom Tresser. I'm sure other folks have heard of Tom Tresser, who's very anti-TIF. The idea that we're reimbursing the West Evanston TIF is one thing, but the idea that we have to reimburse the Affordable Housing Fund, this is a community that we know has been disinvested in for decades. And so this means that we need to throw even more investment in ensuring that there's affordable housing. So that means if we need to combine affordable housing funds that impact the entire city with TIF funds, that's what we need to do. Thank you.
Councilmember Kelly, I would like to get moving on this.
Okay, since Councilmember Reed responded, I just want to say quickly, this is very important that this is written into the resolution, that community members have, had a say as to how they'd like to see this used. I feel like this is just a land acquisition. We're talking $1.757 million, taking money predominantly from our affordable housing fund. I think if we are about creating a community land trust or an LAC, that should be discussed with the community ahead of time, and that could be put in there, as well as the Affordable Housing Fund is for all of Evanston. We should have affordable housing everywhere in Evanston, and that's why we have the TIF to help this particular part of Evanston in principle. So I love the idea of the city buying. I absolutely adamantly approve of the city buying property in order to provide affordable units, but it has to have more clarity before we proceed. So I can't support it at this time. Thank you.
I will request, if there are no further comments, I will request a roll call vote.
I will say that you could have made a motion.
Let's
Let's
do
go.
this.
Roll call.
Yeah, roll call.
Councilmember Nusma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
No.
Councilmember Braithwaite?
Motion carries 4-1, which moves us to item A10, Resolution 44-R-22. Councilmember Reed, would you be willing to make a motion on that item?
No.
Would somebody be willing to make a motion on that item? A10, Resolution 44-R-22, settlement with Ronald Loudoun.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I'd like to move item A10, Resolution 44-R-22, authorizing the settlement and release of all claims in Ronald Loudoun versus the city of Evanston.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded, and Councilmember Reed has requested recognition.
Yeah, I'm just going to be voting no on this. I think this case raises some serious concerns that the city should be looking into, particularly how we utilize anonymous criminal informants who are paid money by the city to make anonymous claims against folks, and they are not required to disclose who they are at any point during the court process. I think that is, to me, it is so offensive. It is akin to the FISA courts at the federal level, the way that we have used these confidential criminal informants. And I think there needs to be some major reform around criminal informants, and knowing that this case stems from the use of a criminal informant, I am voting no.
Is there any other discussion on item A10? Seeing none, Mr. Stowe, will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Nusma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
No.
Councilmember Kelly? Aye. Councilmember Braithwaite?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1, which moves us to item A11, which is ordinance 30-0-22, commercial vehicle parking. Is anybody wishing to, would somebody like to make a motion on this item?
Move the motion.
It's been properly moved by Councilmember Reed and seconded by Councilmember Burns. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Reed.
Yes, I sent, I believe, every member of the committee a few edits to this just to bring it all home and clarify everything. The only what I sent to folks by email shortly or recently reflects everything we've discussed in the past as far as the $25 or $20.
So just to fill in,
did not make that motion
to
yet.
fill in the community here, we've been having some OMA compliant discussions behind the scenes and have arrived at a point where the proposal now is, rather than to charge $200 for B plates and $0 for passenger and FP plates, we will charge $25 for all types of plates.
Yeah.
Keeping the restrictions in place, 20 per ward, and everything else as written in the draft in our packet.
Yes, and then the amendment that I am making just eliminates the language regarding FP plates and other plates, so it makes it very clear that this is for commercial vehicles and everything else that Councilmember Nusma stated there.
So I haven't seen the language you submitted, but we still want to limit this to FP, passenger FP and B plates.
B plates, yeah, and that's the way the language reads. I see that Luke Stowe is on it now. I've shared it with.
I had Councilmember Braithwaite.
Okay.
I just shared a document with you.
Oh, okay.
And I will reshare it with you, Councilmember Newsom. But the language is reflective of what we've talked about, and I think Councilmember Burns has had a chance to look at this previously, and others. I sent this a few weeks ago. So. Yeah, I even put the $25 language in here and the 20 per ward. All of that is included. It eliminates the FP plate, eliminates the P plate.
But so this is where you're losing me a little bit, because we still want to recognize FP and passenger plates and B plates, but it's $25 for everybody.
Well, because so I've put it at vehicles under 8,001 pounds, which is those vehicles, regardless of the plate. Even if they had the Memorial Firefighter plate, they are still if they're a commercial vehicle, so we should still be on the same page.
Okay, hold on. I'm just logging in now to see it. Can the other members of the committee see this language? Yep. I know you're probably following verbally, but we need to vote on what's written down.
That was shared by Councilmember Reed.
No. Anything that's not a B plate, once you get above B plate, it's 8,000. So this would allow B plate.
Should have a notification in your email from Councilmember Reed.
So the language word vehicles under 8,001 pounds. I don't want to, hate to be pedantic here, 8,001 or 8,000?
I guess it'd be 8,001 because it would be up to 8,000 as it's defined, so anything over 8,000.
Okay, vehicles under 8,001 pounds defined as a commercial vehicle in section 10.1.3 of the city code with any commercial markings shall be permitted to park on residential streets at any time with valid commercial parking permit. And so you've changed that section, and then the next section 3 is the cost of the commercial vehicle permit will be $25, period. And were there any other changes you made?
No. Well, then I included the 20 per ward. That's it, but nothing else.
But see,
and then also we had discussed this. I forget if it made it in last time, but Councilmember Burns raised the point that if someone has a garage on their property, we would want them to just certify that they've, that if
like this is the kind of conversation that I was really hoping we would be able to nail down in writing before this point, so we're not where we are
that's not
right
a deal
now.
at all. And so that's
just changing one thing from $200 for one class to $25 for all is fairly simple, and I'm comfortable making that.
I'm happy to eliminate that. That was in the previous version, but
Okay.
as you can, I will live update it now and strike that language, but I did make a note here.
Mr. Chair, if I might, Luke Tatara.
Yes,
Parking
Mr.
Manager.
Tatara.
This is just the pilot program for 1 year
Yes.
for 20 cars per ward. So maybe getting too technical about one or two doesn't make any sense. Let's just see what's going on for a year, and then we have some data to see if the people even residents apply for those permits, and then we can go from there. So it'd be nice to pass it, to see how it goes for the new vehicle sticker season, which started in September. So let's just pass the pilot and we go from there. And after 1 year, we can come back and see if this has worked, this solved the issue, this doesn't solve the issue, and we have a 12-month try period.
I think we're there. If somebody
Yeah, yeah.
would,
So
if you want to post that as a motion. And
Yeah, I move the amendments that I've provided, striking the last thing we talked about there. So I move that.
Is there a second? It's been properly moved and seconded that we amend the language. Is there any further discussion on this amendment? Seeing no discussion, I will call for a voice vote on the amendment. I'm sorry, City Council is weighing in. Our Council Ozarigbo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Deputy City Attorney Michelle Ozaribo. Good evening, members of the committee and Mr. Chair. Just when it comes to the amendments, there's just one more that the law department did want to at least recommend for the committee to consider. So in the packet, it is on page 203 of 226. When you have section 10-4-22, commercial vehicle parking permit pilot program, our recommendation would be, so there are 8 subsections. We would recommend adding a 9th. Once you decide, since this is a 1-year pilot program, once you decide your start date, we would just recommend that you include in here a termination date for the pilot program. So that could be sub 9 in here.
I'm sorry, what page is that?
So it's going to be on page 203 of 226 of the packet.
I'm sorry, you must be looking at council packet. I'm looking at a P&W packet.
I think I have APW up. It's under the ordinance portion. If you go to the third page of that.
Page. I'm sorry, what page should I be looking at?
Sure, so it's the third page of the actual
Third.
30-0-22, the ordinance
Okay.
portion. So if you go to that last page, and under the
last
section,
page
section 4,
of the draft ordinance, which is section 4, okay?
so we have the 10-4-22, the commercial vehicle parking permit pilot program. And just, our law department did a review of this, and it is going to be the one-year pilot program. The council, committee or council.
Hold on. If I can't follow you, I'm sure other people can't too. So
Sure.
I'm on page 4,
Well, it's section 4.
section 4, which starts by, says City Code subsection 10-11-11.
10-4-22.
Okay, we're not in the same place then.
Well, I think the request is a fairly simple one to address. So I amend my motion to include an end date to the pilot, although I do believe the program already addresses that. I think in at least the version that I have in front of me, it says.
Okay, it's on page 200 of 223 in the A&PW packet. That was our miscommunication there. So I am now tracking section 4, City Code section 10-4, and you are proposing addition of a ninth paragraph there.
Chair, if I might, please look at the number 2. It's have the dates in there. Thank Lara for pointing this out.
Yeah.
It's point number 2 of the ordinance.
Okay, so it would start October 1st. Okay. We can strike the additional amendment then and just proceed with,
Okay. So
with Councilmember Reed's amendments then.
So
We
point-
were
thank you,
recommending
Luke,
to
for
add an
pointing that out.
additional paragraph.
So
You won't need it.
Paragraph 2 addresses your concern then.
Correct. We just wanted to make sure that the pilot program would have a start date, end date, and so I see that it has
Okay,
that. Thank you.
Got it. So there's a motion on the table to amend the language that's in our packet, essentially removing a distinction between the 3 types of vehicles and charging $25 for regardless of the type.
Yep. And I've now shared this with Council Ozarigbo.
Okay.
Yes. and
So
she's just-
is there any further discussion on that amendment? Seeing none, I will call for a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. So I will now call for a vote on the underlying motion, which is ordinance 30-0-22 as amended. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Or any opposed, please say nay. There are no nays. That motion carries unanimously, which moves us now to item A12, ordinance 60-0-22.
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Braithwaite, seconded by Councilmember Reed. Is there any discussion on item A12? Any discussion on item A12? Seeing none, I will call for a vote on item A12. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously, moving us to item A13, ordinance 50-0-22, the sale of surplus fleet vehicles. If somebody would like to make a motion on that one.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on item A13? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously, which then moves us to items for discussion, starting with item D1, related to Canal Shores. If somebody would like to make a motion on that so we can discuss.
So moved.
I'm sorry, so probably moved and seconded. Item D1, Council Cummings.
Good evening, members of the Administration and Public Works Committee, Nicholas Cummings, Corporation Counsel. I'm here for the discussion item about the potential lease extension with MWRD for Canal Shores Golf Course for the property that includes Canal Shores Golf Course. It actually includes much larger properties than that. And some representatives are here from Canal Shores if there are questions that I cannot answer for the committee. However, we are currently in a lease with MWRD for this property. Canal Shores is currently a subtenant. That lease expires in 2032. There's a desire by the Evanston Wilmette Golf Course Association, which is the nonprofit that actually runs and operates Canal Shores Golf Course, to renovate the golf course and do some additional programming for the community at the golf course. And they have a plan to do some extensive fundraising on the golf course, but they would like a commitment from the city that we actually will continue to lease the land for use of public space beyond 2032. So that's what the discussion is here for tonight. If, for example, we try to extend the lease now, it would become a city project, which the city would need to pay for it because of the rules with MWRD. Currently, Canal Shores is a subtenant. They would not be allowed to be a subtenant under a lease extension because MWRD their legal department has advised us that allowing them to do so would circumvent the rules of leasing under the MWRD Act. I gave Councilmember Newsma the site. I can't think off the top of my head, but Section 8C of that Act does lay out very specifically how they're allowed to lease land. Us as a municipality get it a lot differently than if it was a private entity. And so for us to sublease to a private entity would circumvent that whole process. And so that's why they say no. We would, however, be able to continue to hire Evanston Wilmette Golf Course Association as our management company to maintain the course, run the course for us on our behalf, even after a lease extension. What we're seeking direction for is it's recommended that we allow the renovations to complete before we actually do an extension. But what we are seeking direction is whether there is support for us to provide sort of some assurance to the donors that are willing to pay for the renovations.
Thank you, Council Cummings. Council Member Revelle is here. Councilmember Revelle, this is your ward. You want to say a few words?
Hello, members of the ANPW committee. Canal Shores is just a terrific steward of this wonderful resource for us, and they're embarking on a really major fundraising campaign to be able to make some much-needed overdue repairs and to expand the programming they offer for the community. And so our providing this letter provides assurance to their potential donors that we're committed to continuing our relationship well into the future. I think the letter will be really important for their fundraising campaign, and I urge your support.
Yeah. And so we're not being asked to vote on any particular language or authorize any particular dollar amount, merely indicate our intention to negotiate with MWRD at a future date for an extension of the lease. And I am supportive of that. Speaking on my behalf, you're asking for direction from other members of the committee, so I will ask them. Councilmember Reed.
Yeah, so what is the next step? So the next step is, as far as city action, is there a vote on a letter, or is it just the law department saying, hey, there seems to be consensus that the city is interested in leasing this longer
we
time?
include sort of like a sample letter in the packet. It's one of those promissory, non-committal, we're going to do it, we support you, but like it's not official type of letter that we would actually write on behalf of the city, either the city manager's office, law department, Parks and Rec, but there'd be a city department that would issue this letter to say, Canal Shores has been part of this community for X amount of years, very, valuable land, looking forward to continued community involvement in this property. City is dedicated to continued relationship, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think, I almost don't think we need to discuss this anymore. I think the idea is yes.
All right.
We're fine to do that.
Is that 5 thumbs up from the committee? I think it's 5 thumbs up for the committee. Thank you. Let's move on to item D2, which is a proposal for snow shoveling assistance for senior citizens. This
So
is
moved.
For discussion, moved by Councilmember Reed, seconded by Councilmember Burns.
Good
Mr.
evening,
Kano.
Chair Newsma, members of the committee, Edgar Kano, Acting Public Works Agency Director. I'm here today to have a discussion on the potential of a snow removal program for qualified residents, property owners. Those property owners would be senior citizens and people with disabilities. In the memo before you, we pointed out what a couple of other municipalities were doing as far as services that they were providing through contracting those services out. One of them was the town of Cicero, and the other one was the village of Bensonville. Outlined here, as you might have seen, there's an extensive cost to those programs. I know I saw some communication going around that possibility of going more towards the volunteer program and see how we can sign up more volunteers to assist our senior community and possibly compensate them for that as well. So I'm not sure if you want me to talk about the memo exactly, or if you were thinking of going in a different direction.
Let's have some discussion, and we'll see where that takes us. Councilmember Reed?
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Edgar, and this was a referral made by Councilmember Seferdin. I support the idea behind it. Our seniors certainly need help maintaining their property, and young folks and other folks certainly need opportunities. In the packet, what's proposed is that we hire contractors to do this. As you mentioned, there are emails offline. I spoke with Councilmember Newsma earlier and others, and specifically we, I think, had a similar idea that, there's an idea that it could be shopped out to, a youth employment style program. I'm supportive of that. I think, Councilmember Newsma brought up the idea of if you don't mind, of a
Mayor's Winter Youth Employment Program.
The Mayor's Winter Youth Employment Program to maybe handle this. When I was clerk, I used to want a clerk's winter youth employment program, but I'm happy to go with this or a city youth employment winter program. I also think that there are other institutions that may be able to provide workers, such as Connections. Folks who are indigent, maybe looking for some employment. This could be an opportunity for them as well. And then lastly, I'll say the one thing I am concerned about this is, one, I want to make sure we bring the cost down and make it not such an expensive endeavor, but also I want to make sure that we're separating liability for the city, because and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just my my thought, particularly Council Ozarigbo, and I know Nick is like a tort expert, so maybe if Nick's listening somewhere, my concern is that if the city pays teenagers, whoever, to go out and shovel someone's snow. The teenagers don't do a very thorough job. They miss a patch. They forget to put down salt or whatever, some substance, and then somebody slips and falls after the city provided this service. Is the city liable? I'll just leave it there. I'll start with either Michelle or Edgar, whoever feels most comfortable.
Okay, good evening again, Deputy City Attorney Michelle Ozuribo. Like Council Cummings, I have a background in torts as well, so I'm happy to share. But to answer your question, it would depend on a few factors, but that could open up the city to potential liability, if that's your question. It's not a guarantee that it would, but it's a possibility that it could. Whether the person shoveling gets hurt or due to the lack of shoveling, someone
right.
injures themselves, so it's a possibility.
Yeah, I would just like to look at, that's a possibility with almost any job that we do, but this is a fairly, shoveling snow in winter can be, especially, not for younger folks particularly, but it can be a taxing endeavor, particularly if you're just using a shovel. And we know of residents who have, died of heart attacks while shoveling snow, and again, young folks are less likely. But I do want to just understand what the liability is. I'm not saying that would make me withdraw my support, but I just want to have a clear understanding and think about how we can mitigate those issues. And then I'd be supportive of, again, moving this away from contractors and moving it toward some using this kind of to feed two birds with one stone, and using this to both be an employment program in some ways and then actually a service to our seniors. So I think we can do both at the same time.
Let's talk about how much that might cost.
Yeah, let's figure that out.
Which is probably nowhere near $1 million.
Yeah.
By my rough math, if we just assume 8 snowfalls, 500 residents, that's 4,000 shovelings that need to happen a winter. $10 per yard seems like it'd probably be well more than minimum wage, given it doesn't take more than 20 minutes to.
We'd have to pay
shovel
them
a
an
yard.
actual wage, but I mean, I think it
Right,
would come
but
out
just
to
to
somewhere-
ballpark the number, that comes out to
yeah.
$40,000
Yeah,
a
yeah,
year. So,
yeah.
there would be overhead if we're managing this with staff time.
And then travel between locations if there is. So, I mean, somewhere around, 40
That
to
would
80,
double it,
less than
isn't it?
$100,000,
Yeah.
I think is fair.
Yeah, I believe Cicero currently charges, the contractors currently charge Cicero about $15 an hour. Obviously, different community, different area, but that is what they're being charged. The only thing that we would need to consider is would we be setting a threshold? Right now, we have that property owners need to remove snow and or ice from sidewalks after any accumulation. Again, you can have a 1/8 inch accumulation of ice, which is more dangerous than 2 inches of snow. So would we be setting a threshold for that at 2 inches, or would it have to start at 0 accumulation like our ordinance says?
I guess whatever our ordinance is what we would
Okay.
do.
Yeah, because that would just increase the
That would increase the
Correct.
number of snowfalls from
Yeah.
8 to maybe 20.
Correct. But I believe 21 is the average for the past 2.
Yeah, which is,
Yes.
2.5 fold increase. So now we're talking in the neighborhood of $200,000.
Which
So-
still is,
Yeah.
for an employment program and
Yeah.
taking care of our seniors, I think it's a good.
And if we have $200,000 to spend, probably for 50,000, we can do a promotional campaign and find some more volunteers to take care of the problem.
Yeah.
Which is not a guarantee if we're relying on volunteers. But I do like feeding two birds with one seed. Let's use that analogy.
Yeah, and I think that's where the issue is. Obviously, there's a lot more property owners that require this service, and I believe it's like half the number of volunteers that there is compared to the property owner. So if we can up that would be great.
Yeah, I think in any case, we would still continue the volunteer program, and then we'd have this paid program for other folks, right?
We can look into more promotion too. If I recall correctly, maybe we didn't do the best job we could promoting it early enough in the summer. I mean, we're talking about it now. Why not start promoting it now? So,
do we have a public listing of all of the people who have volunteered, people who are willing to be connected and volunteer?
To my knowledge, no. What the qualified property owner would do is apply either online, by mail, or by contacting 311. Once they've applied and asked for that list, we send them a list of all of the volunteers, and then it would be up to them to choose or call as many as they would like to try to arrange that service.
It might be nice. There have been a lot of studies about how to do citizen engagement. The folks who are like the super volunteers, if there's like a kid out there and he's shoveling, 10 yards every snowfall or whatever it is, maybe put their kid's name on a website and say, hey, or young person with their permission of their parents and all that stuff, and say, like, look, this is somebody who is an exemplary member of our community who is doing this, and just give them some recognition, some public recognition for what they're doing. I think that might also entice, the people who are just moved by doing good and spreading that goodness around might help get more of those folks involved.
Yeah, agreed. Right now, our volunteer program is being managed by our senior services department, and Director Thompson and her staff gave some great recommendations of how we could promote that, or have possibly team leaders or something, just to make sure we're holding also the volunteers accountable. If you sign up, we're hoping that you show up to your commitment. So we can. I can speak with senior services and see what we can come up with, again, with your recommendations, your direction, and see what's the best for the city and for the property owners.
Councilmember Braithwaite or Kelly, I saw a light on from your direction. Are you guys wanting to weigh in?
I'm good.
Councilmember Burns, any other feedback? Mr. Kennedy, do you have the direction you need now?
Yeah, so if I'm understanding correctly, I'll be working with senior services and our volunteer program. Again, Nathan Norman, Audrey Thompson, to see what we can come up with as far as promoting our current volunteer program, and then seeing, if I'm not mistaken, if we can start a program where some kind of compensation can be done to increase any volunteers. And again, once we have that set, get a cost, come back, see if there's any liability issues or anything with what we propose.
Perfect. And I'd love to be, if it's like Zoom or something, participate in one or two of those meetings to just be in the loop.
Okay.
With you and Audrey and the team. Yeah.
All right.
Great. If there's no further discussion on that item and no further business to come before the committee, I will declare the committee meeting adjourned.